Well, just out here training today for the imminent Chinese invasion. I figured I might as well use some applicable targets based on what's been happening here lately. But there's some things that you should be asking yourself about this whole balloon situation that's been going on. And it's not necessarily the face value questions. It's very easy to have a gut reaction to some of what's happening and say, why didn't they shoot it down? Why didn't they tell us about it? Why isn't this happening, right? And I understand that. But as preppers, we need to actually consider some of the more fringe ideas to get an idea of what we should be preparing for. And there are some things I definitely want you to consider. Now, the first thing you should consider is that this could be used as a tool for propaganda. And when I say that, what I mean is they could easily be using this balloon situation to hype up morale against China, or at least to label China a foreign adversary. And, although many in the preparedness side of things see China as a foreign adversary already, you'd probably be surprised to find out that a lot of the general public might not. In fact, they probably don't see anything wrong with China at all because they provide them with all of their cheap goods. So pushing propaganda that China's flying militaristic balloons over our country and trying to spy on us and use surveillance systems in order to see what we're up to in the sense of our missile silos or any other sensitive activities we might be engaged in is a way to get people on board with the idea that China's starting this aggression, that China's creating a lot of these problems. And if we see ourselves be dragged into some kind of Taiwan defensive scenario, then it'll be a lot easier to get the American public to support that effort, saying, well, China was already doing this stuff to us as well, and if we can stop them in Taiwan, it'll keep them even further away from us here in America. And we know what they've done with these balloons in the past, and we don't want to see that happen anymore, especially now that we know they're an actual enemy, right? So you got to understand that there's a lot of ways that this balloon thing could be used as propaganda. This might be something that happens all the time for all we know, and someone just finally noticed it in the sky, or maybe they decided to let us know about it for a reason. And those are all questions you should be asking rather than the very baseline question of why didn't they just shoot it down, right? Because I'm sure there's reasons there, and we'll get to that here in a second. Now, the second thing that you should be asking yourself regarding this whole balloon scenario is this an impossible situation any longer? Do you still believe that it could not happen here? Because a lot of people seem to be under that belief still. Nothing will happen here in mainland USA because we're well fortified, everybody owns firearms, and no country in their right mind would ever try to invade us or do anything here in America. Yet, here we are all watching on the news in real time this Chinese spy balloon float all over the continental United States without any real interaction, and it could have detonated whatever type of device it might have had on it at any point in time. So this belief that nothing could happen here needs to go away, and hopefully this balloon scenario might wake some people up to that idea, because there's a lot of gusto in our community saying that no one would ever try it because America, right? And look, I'm very patriotic. I love this country, and I want us to survive any situation that happens, right? But all I'm trying to say is that things like this should at least remind you that it's not impossible for a country like China to float a balloon over America and do something very terrible that would send us into a very dangerous crisis. So at least consider that situation when it comes to what we just witnessed. It's not just about, I can't believe they're doing this. It's about, well, it looks like they can do this. So if they can do this, what should we be preparing for, or what should we consider a real possibility at this point in time? So I wanted to bring that up because I think that it should remind everybody that we're not infallible. We're not, perfect when it comes to our defenses. And in fact, we're stretching ourselves very thin when it comes to supplies and ammunition and everything else regarding what's happening in Eastern Europe. And if China decides to make a move, it's going to make that supply line even thinner. So understand that there's a lot of reasons why we should consider ourselves somewhat vulnerable at this point in time compared to how we've been viewed in the past. Now, really quick, I do need to mention that this channel's biggest supporter is Midway USA, and they're one of the reasons why I can get out here on the range and shoot balloons because, they make great targets, and there was no other innuendo considered when I chose those targets today. So I just wanted to mention that. Thank you, Midway USA, for taking care of me and making this channel able to progress. Now, the third thing that you should be considering when it comes to this whole balloon situation, all right, is that we don't have all the information. We just don't. We literally just don't know, okay? So don't jump to conclusions about what should or should not happen if we don't know what's actually going on. And now we're finding out that, well, this balloon doesn't look anything like a weather balloon. Its dimensions are way off compared to what a weather balloon should have been. We're also finding out that maybe this happened again 4 months ago near Hawaii, possibly happened over Texas and Florida during the Trump administration. There's all these other things coming out now suddenly that this is just something that happens all the time, right? So we don't have all the information. So don't base your opinion off a very small amount of information and try to absorb what you can before you get a little bit too excited, right? Try to get more info if you can before jumping to conclusions. And we're only going to find out what the government wants us to know. They're only going to tell us as much as they want to tell us. So that should also concern you, because the fact that they're telling all of this now suddenly kind of goes back to point number one, with this whole thing being used as some form of propaganda, because suddenly this is a regular occurrence and suddenly this happens all the time and no one's done anything about it in the past either. So you should be worried about what China's up to, because why do they keep doing this thing that we've never talked about before until now, when citizens on the ground were able to actually see it in the sky and report it, and then we were forced to let you know about something that was already happening months and months in advance, right? These are all considerations we need to make. And when it comes to preparing, we need to be ready for this actual situation to really occur. Why do you think I come out here on the range? Why do you think I'm trying to move into topics related to thermal or night vision or near peer conflict related topics? Because this is going to be a real possibility here in the near future. And if this balloon should have taught you anything, it's that they can do these things if they want to or decide to. And yeah, maybe we could have done something about it much sooner, and maybe there was reasons for why we didn't. But what I will say is that they have the balls to do it, and they're clearly capable of doing it. So maybe we shouldn't be too comfortable about the idea that they would never do that or they would never try something like that here, right? Keep these things in mind as we move into a very uncertain future where World War III becomes more and more of a regular possibility every single day, and where we have no idea what kind of challenges we're going to face as regular people. But we should do the best to train, equip ourselves, and get the necessary supplies to withstand whatever storm might be coming our way. And this is something you really need to take from this whole balloon situation. Don't be too hyper-focused on the balloon itself. Think about what it means that that existed in the first place, right? Okay, hopefully that helped you guys understand a little bit more of what I was trying to get at here. And if you do want to support the channel and you want to get some interesting, more exclusive content where we talk about things related to balloons or even funfetti or who knows what else, then make sure you check out the subscribe star. I'll put a link below in the description as well as in the pinned comment. That way you can come hang out, get the exclusive content, direct communicate with me if that's something you'd want to do, which I'm not exactly sure why you'd want to. And there are preparedness incentives for being over there as well. So without anything else to say about it, that's going to be it for Magic Prepper.